Well, 20 years ago, a significant portion of the U.S. population had become fed up with the government's handling of the war in Vietnam. Many felt the government had lied, miscalculated, bungled its way through decades of what had been a long tragedy. In the early years, much of the anti-war sentiment was focused on the hawkish Defense Secretary, Robert McNamara. War protesters even talked of being McNamara'd. Now he seems to have had some epiphany.
We were wrong. We made errors of judgment. But I think it can be constructive if one extracts from that experience lessons that will prevent a repetition of those errors of judgment in the future. For example, I think we greatly underestimated the power of nationalism. I think we greatly overestimated the degree to which foreign troops can offset the failures of a state, in this case, South Vietnam. South Vietnam, in a very real sense, was a failed state. I don't believe that military force can reconstruct a failed state.
Well, our guest was an official of what McNamara calls there a failed state. As Yu Phoc Long, he was in charge of the press relations for the late President Diem's South Vietnamese government. He came to the United States after Diem was overthrown in 1964 and has Americanized his name, we should say, to Patrick Dulong. Mr. Dulong, you don't have to have read the book, but you must have heard the words of Mr. McNamara. They're all over the place. What's your first impression?
Well, my first impression was that he was, if you look back into his past feelings and private thinking, he has been consistent with what he has said in private during his tenure at the Defense Department under President Johnson.
Right. What are the inconsistencies that you have seen or heard?
No, I say consistency, not inconsistency. He was inconsistent in the between the official version and his private thinking. If you remember back in the 60s, and it has been recorded in the news report at the time or the oral history at the time, he had been pessimistic about the way the war was conducted and the potential outcome of the war.
The words that he speaks in his book, which is called In Retrospect, are, and we quote, "I truly believe that we made an error not of values and intentions, but of judgment and capabilities." In other words, this is not a mea culpa in terms of we were morally mistaken to become involved in your country, or your former country, but we simply misjudged what we could do there. Is that an accurate assessment, do you think?
More or less so, sir. Basically, the motivation for the U.S. to go into war in Vietnam was more or less ideological and more or less for freedom fighting purpose. But the way it was implemented, the approach to the implementation of the action, the decision, was not appropriate in my opinion. Let me elaborate. Before the U.S. troops landed in Da Nang, I myself expressed the opinion that it is in the best interest of both countries that the U.S. send war material and training and advisory staff to Vietnam instead of foot soldiers to Vietnam, for the simple reason that if we introduce foreign troops into our country to fight our own countrymen, then we would lose our national cause, the justification of our fighting against the communist forces, which we regarded as fighting on behalf of the communist ideology. So therefore, in order to maintain the legitimacy of the cause and to uphold the banner of freedom, democracy, independence, the Vietnamese should wage the war themselves with the assistance, the advice, and the training of the U.S. troops and U.S. advisors. In this case, but in practice, the Vietnamese troops had been sent to the back seat. In other words, the Vietnamese troops had been made civil guards, sort of, instead of fighting on the front line, and which had been left to the U.S. troops to do it, and it make the people and the communist government itself look at it as a foreign war, and it provide more and more ammunition, the best ammunition for the U.S. propaganda mill to tell the world, to educate the world that this is an American war, not a Vietnamese war between the nationalists and the communists.
There are now 25,000 political detainees, the United States calls them, in this country, with about 98,000 of their relatives. There are 40,000 Vietnamese scattered in camps all around the bowl of Southeast Asia. And there's some 50 or so commandos, the 34A people, still stuck in South Vietnam. What is to be the fate of these people?
The fate of these people will remain uncertain in my perception if the Vietnamese Communist government is able to survive healthily and strongly the criticism of the world opinion. But if world opinion and human rights fighters fight hard enough and are able to convince the communists that this will not work to the interest, the advantage of the communists or the Hanoi government, then things will happen. That all depends on how you. It all depends on how the advocates of the human rights fight and carry a struggle and bring the difficulty home to Hanoi.
We appreciate Patrick Dulong being with us. He was the director of the National Press Center under South Vietnam's late President Diem. He now lives in California. He's a youth counselor at a juvenile rehabilitation facility up in Santa Clara County. His experiences there contributed to his book, which is called The Dream Shattered: Vietnamese Gangs in America. And we appreciate his joining us today. Thanks. Coming up on World News from Washington, a co-ed sea cruise ends with some, well, mixed results.